not in the basement anymore. They've let us out into the casino, but not out of the actual building. It's on lockdown. We can't get out and nobody can get in. But basically what happened, we were playing the machine, having a good time, and then there was a load of people.
Mesdames et messieurs, you have to stay back, please. The area is dangerous because of shotgun. Please stay back.
Jordan Maxwell, welcome back on the show.
Thank you very much, Pierre. It's always a pleasure to be with you. Our shows we've done in the past have been fun and interesting, so I'm happy to be back with you. Yeah.
Thank you, Jordan. I repeat to those who don't know you very well that you're not a conspiracy theorist, but a conspiracy analyst. It's not the same thing.
That's right. Yeah, I just analyze what happens. I didn't make it happen, it happened. And most people, when important things happen in the world, like in politics or whatever, in government, when things happen, most people just assume, oh, well, I guess it just happened. But if you are smart and you are well aware, you know things don't just happen. You know, the Hudson Bay Company didn't just happen just by chance, just happened. No, it didn't just happen. Somebody made it happen. Somebody put up a lot of money, and a lot of thought went into it. And a lot of people were hired. And a lot of technicians and people and architects, etc. And ultimately they created a great big company, but it didn't just happen. Nothing just happens. If it's big and it happens, somebody made it happen. Somebody knows what was really going on. Even if you don't, somebody knows who made it happen. So that's why I say I'm not a conspiracy theorist. I'm not talking about theories. I'm just analyzing what happened. And so I'm a conspiracy analyst, if anything. But I'm also a journalist. I belong to the Los Angeles Press Club, and I'm a journalist, and I've been writing for years and talking about the world I live in, and it's all a very interesting story. So what are we talking about tonight?
Jordan Maxwell, since many decades now, United States are the #1 lone gunman factory country in the world. Some normal persons may become sadistic assassins. According to you, Jordan Maxwell, what explains this social phenomenon, or maybe is it a plot from government to create Manchurian candidate at low cost?
Well, even if it wasn't planned, that's what's happening anyway. So whether it was planned or not, that's what's happening. But it's not necessarily the government of the United States, and it's not the people of America. Although the people bear responsibility for their government, and whatever bad the government does, the people are responsible. But it's not really the government itself. The government was a pretty interesting and fascinating idea in its very beginnings when America was being founded. The way that the founding fathers set up the arrangement that we would refer to as the United States of America, and it offered people freedom of liberty and freedom of religion and freedom to be who you want to be and do what you want to do. And so that was a very new thing on the world scene, offering the human race freedom. Because Europe is where we came from, and Europe has no idea in the world about freedom. All they had over there was the church and the hierarchy, and the kings and the queens and the royals and all of that nonsense and bull. And so the people of Europe have always been subservient. They're just servants of the kings and of royalty and of the church and of the authorities, whoever the authorities are. And so in America, it was the first time in the history of the world that a group of people got together and decided they don't want to have anything to do with the church. They want nothing to do with the church and with royalty and kings and rulers and all of that stuff. We don't want nothing to do with it. We want to be free to be who we are and do what we want to do. And so as far as I'm concerned, that was a wonderful idea. But over the years, the powers that be, the criminal powers of Europe, they were not happy with Americans talking about going all over the world, talking about freedom and liberty and justice. The people in power in Europe were not happy about this bull about freedom, because they don't consider anybody being free. The King of England does not consider anybody in England to be free. And this is why everybody in England, no matter who you are called subjects. You're a subject of the king. You're a subject of the government. Subject, that comes from the word to subject. And so when you're subjecting somebody, you're forcing them to do something. You're subjecting them to this or that. And so that's why you're a subject. Because you're being forced to bow your knee to the king and bow your knee to the queen and bow your knee to the Pope and all that. You're being forced to do that. And so Americans decided they don't want to be forced anymore to do any of that nonsense. So from here on out, Americans, when they founded the country, they stipulated that we're all free. And since we're all free, that means we're all sovereigns. We are all free to do whatever we want to do. And the first thing we decided is that the way to stay free is to wear a gun. So if you go back and watch the old movies, the old cowboy movies, was made, many years ago, the John Wayne cowboy movies, the cowboys always wore guns. And, they could go into a bar and wear guns, and nobody ever arrested them. They didn't have to have a permit. It's in the movies. The cowboys wore guns. And, why? Why were the cowboys allowed to wear guns? They didn't have police. Have you ever seen an old Western movie, old cowboy movie with police? There were no police. There was a sheriff and a marshal, but there was no police. And the reason why is because it's the words mean something. So America was free, and I just think that was a great idea. Unfortunately, we failed. Ultimately, we failed. It was a good idea when it started, but unfortunately, what's the word? Materialism. Money comes into the picture. You start making money, and you start, gathering up material possessions and money, and then you start getting greedy, And the richer you come, the more you want more. And then one day you become so greedy and you're looking for political power. And like Lord Acton said in England, power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. And so the more powerful America became and the richer she became, the more she needed, the more she wanted. Typical of wealthy people. They're not happy with their wealth. They want twice that much. Rockefellers were trying to make millions and millions and millions of dollars more than the 666 million they had. They want that much more. And so eventually, the idea of America, what America represented was freedom and liberty for everyone. That idea finally fell apart, and now today we are just a corrupt corporation, nothing but business and money and corruption, and the government is corrupt through and through. There very well are some people, members of the government, some certain senators and congressmen are good people. They're good guys, and they're trying to do the best they can. But the government itself has become so corrupt that even the good guys, the good senators and congressmen, and there are a few good ones, they can't really do much about it because, I mean, you could be a really good guy on a major ship, but if the whole ship is full with stupid people and the thing is sinking, I don't care how good you are and how honest you are, you know, you're going to go down with the ship. So I just see the history of mankind and the history of governments collapsing because of their own corruption. That's what's happening to America. And unfortunately, America is collapsing. And there's a reason why, but here's the real tragedy, that when America goes, so goes Canada, so goes Australia, New Zealand, England. The whole of Western Christian civilization is crumbling, falling apart. And the reason why is we people of the Western world have allowed the Marxist-Leninist Soviet communist idea to come into our world and affect us and affect our thinking. It's been a very, very interesting. I used to wonder to myself as a young man, I used to wonder what caused the Roman Empire to collapse. I mean, it was so well organized and so powerful and so militaristic and controlled such an enormous area of the world. And they were absolute power. And yet they collapsed. The Roman Empire fell apart. And then, and so I wondered what caused that. Well, now, of course, I'm looking at America. And America is the Roman Empire, still is the Roman Empire. And now we're collapsing, and I know why. So now I've answered my question. Yeah, I know how the Roman Empire collapsed. All you got to do is just look at Washington, D.C. for about an hour. You'll figure it out. It's just corruption. They're just evil, corrupt people who, you know, made millions and they want millions more, and they're out of their minds. They're totally lost their minds. They've lost reality. They've lost touch with reality. And so now we are a criminal empire with nothing but wanton criminals. And the people, one half of the people in America love the criminal element. They love the criminals. That's why so many people wanted to vote for Hillary Clinton and Bill Clinton and Obama and all the other master criminals, masters at being criminals that know exactly how to do what they do and know precisely what they're doing, and they're manipulating, they're exploiting the poor people who are ignorant and ill-informed. So I know it was a wonderful idea. America was a wonderful idea. And there was a time when it was really important on the world scene. But now, today, I look at the country, my own country of America, and I look at the world around me, and I know that America is collapsing. And it's too bad, but the Roman Empire collapsed, the Grecian Empire collapsed, the Babylonian Empire collapsed, the Assyrian Empire and the Persian Empire collapsed. Well, so are we. America's collapsing now too. And it was a great idea. It just didn't work for very long, but we did the best we could. But the Canadians need to understand that, when we go, we're taking you with us. because if we don't send food and money, everybody else is starving. And so America feeds the world. America finances the world. We finance all kinds of countries doing all kinds of things. We've been financing and having fun doing it, and controlling people and financing projects and financing wars. We've had so much fun doing that, it just never occurred to us that we're broke. And the idea is that Americans think, what do you mean we're broke? We still have checks. I got plenty of checks. I'm not broke. No, the money is in the bank. You don't have any money in the bank, so the checks are no good. And so I just feel very bad for my country. And the reason why is because Americans are not very well informed. They're not educated anymore. And when you are ignorant and ill-informed and uneducated, then you can be taken advantage of and lied to, and you have to believe whatever you believe. And so I've said that the reason Americans can't do anything about their country, they can't do anything about anything, it's because knowledge is power. And unless you understand how the world works, and who's doing what and how they're doing it. And if you don't stand up for what's right, and you don't stand up for the correct principles, and you just keep your mouth shut and go along to get along, as long as the beer is coming in, as long as you're eating, as long as you're being entertained, you can go to movies, and so you feel like you're free. We're not free. And all you got to do is try and do anything in America without a permit. You'll find that you're not free. And you can't build a house, you can't get married, you can't buy anything, you can't do anything unless you get a permit and pay the fine and pay the fee and pay the tax and pay this and pay that and ask permission. If you do anything in America without asking permission, you go to jail. That's it. Why? Because you're not free. Nobody said you were free. You used to be free, but that's a long time ago. Today, we're not free. So there's a whole story about why we have today something we didn't have for so many years in America. We never had police. But today we have police department. But in the Wild West, in the West days, 100 years ago, they didn't have any police in America. There was no such a thing. And the reason why we have police today, we didn't have it originally, is very simple. We are not living today. If you're living in North America and what we call America, you're not living in the United States of America. This is no longer the United States of America. North America, now known around the world as United States. It's not United States of America. It's just United States, period. It's a company. It's a corporation. It's like what is it? What's the big companies in Canada? What's the big company, big corporations? And what is it? What is the Hudson Bay Company? Is there a company called Hudson Bay in Canada?
Yeah, it's one of the first.
Okay, so it's like Hudson Bay Company. It's a big corporation. It's a big company. It's not the government. It doesn't represent God or the king. It's just a company, just a corporation. Well, if you're working for Hudson Bay Company, if you're working for a big corporation in any country, if you're working for a corporation, you have rules and regulations you have to abide by that they are paying you, but they can tell you what time to be to work, and the company can tell you what time you take off for lunch. They can tell you what time you go home, and they can tell you exactly what to do while you're there. Why? Because it's just a business. If you don't like that, you don't want people telling you what time you have to go to work and what you have to do when you get there. You don't like that, that's okay, then quit. But if you're going to work for the company, they will tell you what you have to do and what you can do and what you can't do. If you don't like that, then they're firing you. It's just business, okay? So therefore, after the Civil War in America was over, the Civil War, which was very, very bad, very bloody. After the Civil War was over in the 1870s, it became apparent that we were no longer the United States. We're not united. One half of the country was fighting and killing the other half. The whole of the South was fighting and killing the whole of the North. And the whole of the North is trying to kill all the people in the South. So we are a lot of things, but not united. So we're no longer called the United States. Right? So we're not united. So hold on just a minute.
No problem.
I forgot to, yeah, hold on. Hello? So the problem is, after the Civil War, we were not united. And so the Congress decided, our governmental system decided that we're no longer united. So we're not going to be called the United States of America anymore, because we're not united. And so but everybody is still here. After the war, whoever's left is still here. They still need a job, and they still need to eat, and they still need to, they're here, so what are you going to do with them? If you don't have a United States of America, what are you going to do with them? What are you going to call this thing? A bunch of people here, what are you going to call it? And how are you going to run it? And so it was decided that no longer are we a country, the United States of America, so they decided that it would be, the only thing we could do is we'll have to form a company. Let's form a corporation, like the Hudson Bay Company. We'll form a company, a corporation, and we will say that everybody here in North America is a member of the corporation. You work for the corporation. And so it was decided in 1871 that we will have a corporation now. It's not going to be a country anymore. It's a company, a corporate. And so when we became a corporation, corporations like Hudson Bay Company and like the big corporations, whatever they tell you that you have to do, that's not God's law. That's not the law of the country. It's just it's just the way the company runs. It's just their policy, right? So if they tell you you have to be to work at 9 o'clock in the morning, that's not a law. That's not the law in Canada. It's their law. It's their policy. They decide what time you should be there. So it's not the law. It's not under law. It's their policy. And their policy is you take off at noon to 12:30 for a lunch hour. And their policy is if you come in at 9, you go home at 5. It's not the law of God. It's just that's their policy. So we call it a policy, not the law. So before, when you were in America, before 1870s, we were under the law, the United States of America's law. But after the country went through the war, and there is no United States of America, and they made it into a company. Well, now only the company can't make laws. The only thing a company can do is have a policy. So the policy is from now on, you go to work and you have to pay the bills and you have to do this. You got to go to school and you can't do that and you can't do this. So it's just a company policy. It's not law. And so the people who run the corporation are called policy makers. And so they make a policy. And the policy is not the law, but it's just a policy. Well, who's going to back up the policy? Suppose you tell me that I can't do this and I can't do that because that's the policy. And I decide, why not? Why can't I do it? Who are you to tell me what I can do and what I can't do? You say, well, no, but that's the way the company works. It's our policy. Well, and so how do you back up your policy if people don't want to follow your policy? Well, you have policy makers. That's what we call our lawmakers, policy makers. And so policy makers make the policy. Well, who's going to back up the policy? You back it up with guns. You back it up with the military. And so the policy is backed up by police. Police back up the policy. It comes from the same word, police and policy. And therefore, the whole idea is called politics. Politics is the understanding of the policy, and the policy has got the policy makers, and the police back up the policy. So if you give me a policy I can't do, and I say, why not? Well, you'll send out the policy enforcers. They call police, who back up the policy for the politicians. So it's now we have to have police, because before we didn't have a policy, because there was no corporation. It's a country, a free country, in which people are free. We're no longer free. After the Civil War, we're no longer free. There is no United States of America. There's a United States Corporation that was incorporated in Delaware. It's a privately owned company. So it has to have police backing up the policy. So that's where it all comes from. It's a very big story, and it's a very unhappy story, but it's the only one we got. It's the way life is, whether you like it or not. So we just do the best we can with it. So nobody understands. Most people don't understand what's going on or how it works or anything. So we just rattling along today. Americans are just basically rattling along. Americans don't understand what's going on in government. They don't understand what's going on in religion. They don't understand what's going on in banking. Americans generally just don't understand what's going on, period. All you got to do is talk to them, and you'll find out how much they don't know. And so that's what I've been trying to do for years, is just to wake people up and show them how to think and how to, do the research to find out why we live the way we do. So that's what I do.
Jordan Maxwell, but what happened in the mind of a guy, a family guy, with no police records, no criminal background? What happened in what collapse is in his head to be to become to become a bloody assassin who shoot people in the street in Las Vegas, for example, or in a church? Or what happened? Why?
Well, there's more than one answer to that. There's at least three answers. And so you can't apply the answer to everything. There's all kinds of crazy stuff like that happening. But some of it happens for one reason, while some of it happens for a different reason. The main reason why people, ordinary, everyday people, flip out and go killing people is because as human beings, we are frustrated. You take an animal, You take an animal from Africa and bring him over and put him in a small cage. They become very, very vicious. I mean, they're bad enough in Africa on the plains, but if you put them in a cage, they become very frustrated. That's against their will and against their makeup is to be caged like an animal. They want to be free, and they don't know how to act when you put them in a cage. And so that's where Americans are. We're in a cage now. We can't do this. You can't do that. You go to jail. You have to pay this. You got to pay that. You can't do this. You can't go there. And there's no more freedom. You have no more rights. They have no rights, no freedoms. You have corrupt courts and evil courts and corrupt judges. And there is no law. And so the whole thing is just falling apart, and it's all corrupt. And so people, generally speaking, are just frustrated. This is not the way America should be. We should be free to do what we want to do and build and think and grow. But now America is under arrested development. It's as if somebody's come in and arrested America. So America can't do anything anymore. They can't think anything anymore. They have no freedom. And the government is ripping them off and stealing their money and throwing people into prisons and it just people are frustrated with the tyranny of government. Government is a tyrannical, fascist system that we now live under. People are going to prisons for smoking cigarettes, and and there's no justice in the courts. There's no justice anywhere. And so eventually, just the normal person becomes so tired of the injustices and the lies and the criminals who make millions while the rest of the people are starving. And if you're a criminal, you can go into government like Obama and become president of the United States if you got a real good criminal background. If you're really a criminal and you can prove it, then you can be president of the United States. And if you're a real criminal, you can be like Hillary Clinton and make millions and billions of dollars. And nobody's going to touch you. Nobody's going to do anything to you because you're financing everybody. And so the normal person in the street sees that, and they know their country is worthless. They know the criminals are running free. They know the banks are corrupt. They know that the whole system we live under is corrupt. And so they get so frustrated. And then one day when they are put under pressure and their children are arrested or whatever happens, they go out and get a gun and shoot somebody just because they're so frustrated. So that's one reason why the craziness is happening, because the people of the country of America are frustrated. They thought this was a free country. Now they find out, no, it used to be a free country a long time ago. It's not free anymore. And you're going to jail. And there ain't nothing you can do about it. You don't even bother to get a lawyer because you're going to prison no matter what you do. And so that's one reason why people are frustrated. But there's another very important part to this. A lot of these big murders and big criminal actions are perpetrated by the government. The U.S. government wants these big things to happen where 50 people or 60 people are killed. Then you find out that the CIA is involved with the guy who did the killing. Then you find out the NSA and the CIA and government agencies were involved with him. They were paying him money and financing him and putting it into his head to do these criminal acts. Why? Because the government wants somebody to do these acts so that they can come in and give more laws, lay down more laws. So they will pay somebody who finds the right guy and pay him to bust out the windows in a hotel and start shooting the people in Las Vegas. Why? Because now the government can come in and say, we've got to do something. My God, this is terrible. We have to do something. So we have to, we have to take away the guns from the people, and we have to make sure that people have, all kinds of cameras and everything to watch you and watch what you're doing. And that's what they do. That's what the U.S. government is famous for doing in airports. And any place where there's mass transportation, like bus terminals and train terminals and airports, the government purposely, the U.S. government will purposely finance some guy. They'll pick some guy like yourself and like me. They'll pick some guy that works for them and say, look, here's what we're going to do. We're going to run a test. We want you to go in with a gun, a loaded gun, and you go and get a ticket on such and such airplane, and you go get a ticket to go on the plane. Now, we've already talked to the airlines, and they already know what we're doing. This is a government operation, and we're just running a test. So you're not going to be arrested. You're not going to have to worry about being arrested and all of that, because we made a deal with the airport, and they know it's the government doing it. So just do what we tell you. You go on the airport and you get the ticket and everything, and then when you get on the plane, we're going to find out, we're going to have one of the hostess or somebody find out that you have a gun on the plane. And now we're going to have to arrest you. But just remember, it's the government doing this. You're working for us. So you're not going to go to jail. But we're going to have to come out and make it look like we're going to arrest you for coming on the plane with a gun. But it's a government operation. So you don't have to worry about going to prison or anything. You're doing it for us, and we're paying you to do that. Why are we paying you to do that? So that when it happens and you found out that you got a gun and you're on the plane, then the government, the head of the CIA or the head of the FBI or somebody, some big official in Washington can say, and now he's justified, he can say, well, see, if we had had better laws, this would not have happened. If we'd have had more stronger and stricter laws, we would have caught this guy and this would not have happened. So we've got to do something to strengthen our laws, because this is typical. See what happened? He just walked right in with a gun and they sold him the ticket. We've got to do something about that. So we're going to have to really change this situation. We can't handle this anymore, but with people just walking in and with a gun and getting a ticket. So we're going to have to look at how we're going to change this. We're going to make it more difficult for a person to buy a gun. We're going to make it much more difficult to get a ticket on the plane. We're going to make it much more difficult to do anything. We're going to be watching. And now we're really going to watch everybody. We're really going to watch everybody now. That's what they wanted to do. They wanted to get you tighter and lock you in tighter, but they needed an excuse. So they pay somebody with a gun to go in so that we can catch you. And when we catch you, now we have to enact new laws to make it even more difficult on the people. And so we finally find you, and you're the one with the gun on the plane. And then you get your $10,000 for doing your job and get lost and go out and keep your mouth shut and go get lost. So you made some money and you didn't go to prison. But now America has some new stricter laws now that the people have to live by. And then a year from now, we'll get another guy. We'll pick somebody else and we'll pay them to come in and actually do something again like that. And then the politicians can come out and say, see, there it is again. We've got to make these laws stronger. We have to make these laws stronger. That's what they wanted to do, make the laws stronger. But they now have an excuse because they paid you to go in and do something to look like the criminal. And so you don't go to jail. You just take your money that you earned, and the government gets what it wanted. The government gets to now enact harder laws. Now they have to put the cameras in bathrooms and cameras in the toilet and cameras everywhere you look, and have to check your eyes and have ID and all kinds of stuff now because we got to make these laws stronger to protect the American people. We got to make these laws stronger. Why? Well, because of these criminals. Yeah, but you paid the criminal to do that, and he didn't go to jail. You paid him money to do that. Yeah, but now at least we get our laws passed because everybody says, "Oh well, I guess so. I guess we have to do that because this guy walked in and bought a ticket with a gun, and so we can't have that happening. So whatever the government says we have to do, we have to do." That's what they wanted. That's what they wanted. They wanted you to give up and say, "Oh, okay, I guess we can't do that anymore. The government says they can't do it anymore because this criminal got away with a crime." And so the bottom line is that the U.S. government is paying people money to do criminal acts so that they can come in and make the laws even more severe. Why? On the criminal? No, they're paying him. He works for the government. They're making the laws more severe for the people of America, for the people of Canada, for all the people. But they're using the excuse of this guy who was a criminal, and he did this and he did that, but nobody knows, no, the government paid him to do that. It's a trick. And that Abraham Lincoln was supposed to have said, you can fool some of the people some of the time, but you can't fool all the people all the time. You're not going to do it. You're going to have smart people who know what you're doing. And so I've known that. I know what the government's doing. I know what the U.S. government is doing. They are purposely paying people to commit crimes, large crimes, killing people in the street, purposely, so that they can now come in with new laws and new regulations and put up more cameras and send more people to jail. And it's just a horrible, terrible tragedy because it's a corrupt government doing corrupt things. And like the Roman Empire, there's no hope for it. We've lost our freedom. We've lost our home. We've lost America. We've lost freedom. And now the only thing left to do is to lose your mind. And that's what people in America are doing now. They are losing their mind. All you have to do is watch them. Watch them on television, jumping around and going to silly games and drinking beer and having parties. They're just losing their minds. But I've been watching this happening for a long time. I'm an old man, but I've been watching it happening, and I know what's coming. I know what's going on. And the only thing, there's only one hope, and that is to educate yourself as to how a corrupt government actually works. And so that's the name of the tune. America is a very corrupt government, a very corrupt society. And the people are now, the people themselves are corrupt. When we talked about all the drug dealers in Colombia and all of these drug lords and all these criminal drug corporations and drug crimes groups, and we talk about how these drug lords are making billions of dollars in drugs. But nobody seems to ask the question, how are those drug lords making billions of dollars off of drugs and selling drugs? And you know, how are they doing that? They're selling it to Americans. Americans are the ones giving the drug lords the billions of dollars. So don't just look at the drug lords making billions of dollars for selling drugs. Look at the Americans who are equally criminal and buying the drugs. If Americans said no drugs for us whatsoever, we don't want no drugs into our children, we don't want any drugs in our society, period, no drugs. We're not going to have it. They're not going to have criminal activity like that. Well, how many billions are the drug dealers going to make? They're not going to make a dime. Why? Because the people don't want the drugs. So the only reason why the drug dealers are making billions of dollars because the Americans are full of drugs. We are a drug society. I mean, even your grandmother's popping pills, and your wife is popping pills, and your kids are popping pills. And then all the working class people, they're on the hard drugs, heroin and all the really hard stuff. That's why the drug industry and the drug cartels of Colombia and South America are making billions, is because Americans love drugs. And why? Because the Americans are sick and tired of their government. They're sick and tired of their religions. They're sick and tired of the corruption. They're sick and tired of the cops. They are basically sick and tired of all of it. It's all corruption, and the Americans know it. So the only thing left to do in America, just buy some drugs and forget it. Go out to Disneyland and get and drink your beer and shoot your drugs and take your pills and go out and enjoy yourself. Because there is no hope anymore. There is no law. There is no justice. There is nothing of any value, any intrinsic value left. So just take your drugs and shut up. So you ask the reason why normal people are going crazy is because the society is going crazy. And one other thing you need to keep in mind: when the people of a country see that their country, that their government is corrupt and law and disobeying the law, there's going to come a time, it always has, there's going to come a time when the people see the government getting away with criminality and there's no justice and there's nobody going to jail. The people themselves will become like the government. Well, if the government's corrupt and cheating and killing, I am too. You know, they don't like what I'm doing, I don't like what they're doing. And so now we have bank robbers and killers and all kinds of criminal. Why? Well, because that's what the government is. They're all a bunch of bank robbers and killers and criminals and war and violence and drug abuse. And so the people, they just give up and say, okay, I'm going to do the same thing. I mean, if Hillary Clinton can rob and rape and pillage and plunder and nobody does anything to her, I'm going to do the same thing. So it's just business. And so there's a reason for everything. There's a reason for everything.
Jordan Maxwell, do you know the fictional character Jason Bourne, created by
the movie
by Robert Ludlum?
Yeah, the movie.
Yeah, there is a four movie based on books. Each time I see,
I don't know anything about it though. I never watched any of those movies. I don't know anything about the story, but I know about the movies. But I don't know anything about the story.
Each time I see these movies, I have the funny impression that I'm watching a documentary instead a fictional movie. I mean, do you think that America has manufactured killers spread around the world?
Yeah, you're right. Because what you're doing, you're right. You are watching a documentary. Because art entertains life.
Yeah.
And so art is life. And so when you see these mob movies like The Godfather 1, 2, and 3, Godfather and Jason Bourne, and all the other movies coming out of Hollywood about the criminality and the mafia and all that, those are actually documentaries because that's what life is in America. That's us. America is mafia. It's corrupt underworld. It's a corrupt governments. It's corrupt banks. I mean, the people are on drugs. They can't handle it anymore. So Americans are just flipped out. They're all on drugs. And the young people have no, and the really disgusting part, as far as I'm concerned, is that young people today in school and junior high and high school and college, young people have nobody to teach them and show them how to live. No one, college kids do not have anyone to show them how the world works. So young people just grow up like animals, like dogs and cats have youth. They have young cats and dogs. An animal, even though it's very young, when it's born, it just grows up to do what it does. I don't know, a dog's going to do what a dog does, whatever that is. And a cats are going to grow up to be a cat, which means they're going to do whatever a cat does. Not going to be anything special. A dog is a dog, a cat's a cat. Well, a young person is a young person. Well, have you taught them anything? No, you didn't teach them nothing. Have you explained to them the world they live in and how it works and what is going on and how to live? No, nobody shows them anything. Well, and so therefore the young people grow up and they're on the street, they join a gang. The only way they're going to live is to join a gang and beat up somebody else and take their money and kill them. And then they go to prison, and then when they get out, now they're professional. And so the bottom line is, no one is teaching the human race how the world works and what is going on in the world. Young people don't know. They have no idea in the world how the world works. Why? Because the adults who gave birth to them, they don't know. And their family and the adults and their grandparents, they didn't know. And the great-grandparents, they didn't know. And so the great-grandparents give birth to the grandparents, and they don't know from nothing. They don't know anything, so they just give birth to them and let them go out and grow up. Do whatever you're going to do. You don't have any education. You don't know anything about nothing. So just go on out and get married and have some babies and do whatever it is you're going to do. And so they go out and they get married, they have babies, and then they tell their babies, just go on out and do whatever you're going to do. I can't tell you anything. I don't know nothing. I can't help you. I can't train you and educate you. Why? Because I can't even read. I'm so stupid. So I'm just going out and go do whatever you're going to do. Get married, I don't care. Take drugs, I don't give a damn what you do. And so then those kids go out and they grow up and they have children. And all they know is what they've done, whatever that is. So their children grow up and they don't know nothing about nothing. And so they go out and get into trouble and rob and end up sleeping on the street and under bridges. And so after a while, you got 7.5 billion people that got an IQ of 40. Nobody knows how anything works. Nobody knows how things operate. Nobody knows anything about government, about banking, about theology, about religion. Nobody knows anything about nothing that's happening on the earth, and everybody's just out there doing something. That's all there is. You just go out and do something. Just get out of the house. I'm tired of looking at you. So the kid goes out and gets in a gang or gets drugs or run over or kills somebody or whatever the problem is. And oh my God, Lord, the terrible thing that this kid did. No, it's the parents. The parents are the ones that could have trained him and taught him, but the parents didn't know anything. They don't know nothing, so what are they going to tell the kid? They don't know themselves. And they're just as big a criminal as the kid is. So I see the world is inundated with ignorance, stupidity, criminality, and it's because nobody has taught the world how to live. Nobody has taught young people anywhere, period. You talk about the churches that have special schools for the church schools and all and religious educational schools, and that's not teaching a child nothing. That's just teaching a child a particular religious belief, but it's not helping the individual as a human being to learn how the world actually, in fact, works, and who you are as a human and how you got here, where you're going to go when you leave here, and how did you come to be a human being to start with, and where are we in the great universe? Nobody knows nothing. Nobody's interested to know anything. As long as they've got beers cold and they got plenty to eat and they got a lot of entertainment, watch on TV, they don't care about any of that. Well, you just keep on not caring and you just keep on putting kids out there and reproducing and reproducing and reproducing and just keep putting kids out there and educate and no education, no understanding, no direction, no nothing until one day you now got the world you live in where wars and violence and destruction and drug abuse and criminality all over the world. Why? Because the entire world is ignorant, ill-informed, and unread, while the popes and kings and rulers and the Prince Charmings and all the princes and kings and rulers and the papacy and the priests, they all live nice, quiet, productive, protected lives, making money off of the poor people. It's a horrible and terrible story. I'm not a conspiracy theorist. I'm a conspiracy analyst. I know how government works. I know how commerce and banks work. I know how we got the police department. I know where the wars are coming from. This whole thing in the Middle East is all being orchestrated. It's all part of, why do you call in a war, the war is in the Pacific? If there's a war in the Pacific, we call it the Pacific theater of war. If it's in the Europe, if there's a war in Europe, America's called, oh, that's the European theater of war. Theater? You're talking about a show? Yeah, it's just a show. Just business. Corporation is taking over another corporation. They don't want to do business with us. Well, that's okay. We'll go kill them. Then they have to do business with us. And so we'll send in the Marines. If we want something and you don't want to give it to us, we'll send the Marines in. We'll get it. And you're going to wish you never said no. It's just business. Same thing with the mafia. It's just business. So the world we live in is unfortunately just a business, and the entire world has the IQ of 40. Most people do not even know they're alive. They don't know where they've come from. They have no idea where they're going, what they're doing, and what it all means, or what the words mean, what government means, what the word religion means. They don't know what anything means about nothing. And so, but all they do know how to do is create children. Have some more kids, have some more children, and their children have children, and those children have children. So finally, you got 7.5 billion grown children on the earth, and nobody has the education enough to find their way out of a paper bag. Nobody understands anything. They don't know how to read. They don't know how to think. All they know how to do is drink their beer and eat their hamburgers and drink beer and watch the movies. And the whole entire world is going to hell. And you're seeing it now, and you're watching the collapse of the Roman Empire, the coming collapse of Western civilization, and it's well now on its way. And if you think it's bad now, watch what's coming. The people who are running this planet have something in mind for you, and you have no idea in the world how bad it's going to be. The people who are running this planet know what they're doing. And it's going to be very frightening to the world when you wake up and find out who America really is and what Canada is actually, in fact, doing. And behind the scenes, what is going on in Europe and why there's an Islamic invasion in the world, it's all part of a plan. So that's all I can say is that education is the bottom line. People have no education. They don't know how anything works. And that's why we're in trouble. And that's why I've been giving my whole life to trying to educate people that their governments are corrupt, their laws are corrupt, their religions are corrupt. There's no facet of human endeavor on the earth today that's not totally corrupt. So the world is a business.
Jordan Maxwell, it is always a pleasure to listen to you. You now moved in in Colorado, the what Boulder, Colorado, sorry, for your new work with Gaia.com. You're working on a documentary, I think, or something like that.
Yes, I'm working for a company called Gaia. It's spelled very simple. Gaia. Gaia. GAIA.com. That's the company I'm working for now. I'm a producer. I'm producing programs. I'm producing television and TV programs, etc. And because they realize who I am, and they have asked me to come and produce programs for them, which I'm happy to do. But my website, if you're interested to talk with me, is very simple. Jordan, Jordan, like the river Jordan. Jordan Maxwell, Maxwell, Maxwell. Jordan Maxwell Files, Files. Very simple email to Jordan is jordanmaxwellfiles@gmail.com. And my website is Jordan Maxwell Show, SHOW. Very important. Add the word show. That's my website, jordanmaxwellshow.com. And then you can go on and read all about me and read about my website and everything. It's all on there. All you got to do is just go on the web to Jordan Maxwell Show, and you'll see who I am and what I'm doing and what I've been doing for the past 58 years. I'm still doing it. So I want to thank you again for having me on. You know, I'm always happy to come on and talk with you. I'm sorry to have to be so pessimistic, but I'm being very honest. And I feel that it's the time for honesty, to tell the people the truth. We're so far gone now that there's a handful of people in the world who really want to know what's going on, who really know there's something wrong, and they want to know. Well, I want to be the one to tell them, because I've been doing it for 58 years.
Jordan Maxwell, thank you very much, and I wish to you a good life in Boulder, Colorado, for many years, I hope.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Pierre. You're a dear friend, a good guy, and I always enjoy being on the radio with you. And thank you very much for your kindness. And thank everyone for hearing me.
Thank you for your generosity, Jordan, and see you next time.
Will do. Anytime you want to do a show, I'm always here. JordanMaxwellShow.com. Thank you.
Bye, Jordan.
Goodbye.
I'm going to bring in Brian Clayton, someone that you spoke to earlier this morning, who was also at the concert and ran when he heard the gunshots. Brian, good to see you again, and just remind people of what you saw.
Hey, Robin, I'll do my best. I can't even believe how many people were killed. But so I was sitting in the VIP section, and it was right near the stage.